All right. Hello, hello, hello. We are live and hopefully with a mic that does not die midstream. Hopefully it stays working the whole time. We had a little bit of a tech issue before coming on. So hopefully we're good. So hello everyone and oh well goodness, Seamus Dirty Moccasins, welcome to the channel membership. Very cool. All right, well, so let's see who else is in the house. I know some of you are here because I've been chatting with you ahead of time. Loves a 1911 also says thanks for the mods being in the house. And we'll get Trashman's intro, and then we'll say hello to everybody. Trashman says, live from the 8th state to ratify the U.S. Constitution, it's the lady who plays frisbee using golf rules, is more than a match for the Kenosha DA, and is elated that McRib is back. Oh. Oh. And with that, here's Dolly. I do not follow the McRib. I saw a picture of it recently, and I was horrified because I didn't think that it was food. It did not look like food, but apparently it is food. And Aaron Miller, thank you for the donation. I'm going to do my drink for the super chats because I can tell I'm really dehydrated. You guys might need to remind me a bit today, as I am not firing on all cylinders. In fact, I am firing on 4 hours of sleep, which is super exciting. Anyways, so I know that we have Pickle Jars for Hillary in the house. We have Cap and Mac. We have Squid Monkey, Talisman, Andrew Kang. I was chatting with some of these folks a little bit before we went live, telling them my tech woes. Gardner Goldsmith is in the house. Sabby, Jonathan Stevie, Godkey1, Eric the Mind Control Guy, John Swicegood, Dave Simmons, John Morgan, who really helped me out today by sending me some links. Wayne Flanagan, let's see, Nomad0036, David McCoy, Shiggy Happy Fun Man, Stevie762, let's see, the Surma Dog, Bob Messercola, Brent Prosser, Mark M., let's see. Dave Simmons, Gardner. I already got Gardner, but I guess we're getting Gardner twice. Mike Sharp, Uncle Mike, Pearl Stark, Carolina Infidel, James California, Blue River Cat, JD Crap. I like that. Michael 9865. Let's see. I'll look in this window because I see people are tagging me, and that might make it a little bit easier. Let's see. Stephen Lestick, Millwright Prepper, Bob McGrew Jr., Nelson Fisher, Andriel Hillis, Rabid Taz, Steve Borg, Omega is in the house, as he says. Dennis Mateo, Wicket. I can't even read that. Oh, it's Wildcat Kyle, but without the vowels, I'm guessing. She, Happy Fun Man, Dave Johnson, Pika Warps, Space Peanut, Rose Blight. I feel like I haven't seen you in the chat in a while. Fish and Golf and Guns, Chavez Head, Stray Cat. Gardner says, I was gonna send $10 LD for you, the baby, your man, but with inflation, gotta make it 20, and I raise a glass of orange soda. Salute. Thank you. Oh God, yeah, that inflation. It's like the folks are finally realizing, like, oh no, they've been saying for months and months and months, oh, the inflation is transitory, that's it, oh, it's gonna go away, and all of a sudden, now they're on the media and saying, oh, this might not be transitory, seeing as inflation has gone up 5% a month for the last, what, is it 3 months, 4 months? And it went 6% this last time, which was the highest boost to inflation in 30 years. So inflation rates are at a 30-year high. We have not seen the likes of this since the 1990s. Super duper exciting. And by exciting, I mean slightly terrifying. We have Patrick Binder, Adolf DLC, Tara Smith, 2 Timothy, 3 Just Dan, Indiana Tony, John Thomas, I think I might have gotten you already, Tango Chaser, Robbie Rutherford, Angst Vexed, Chris Epler, PNP, Ed Morin, Tommy Walker, Mr. E, US Ursine Supremacy, Kelly Crashner, Dave Johnson, RK O'Neill. I am wondering if patio furniture is in the house, because I was researching another story today and writing a video for it, and I came across someone on Twitter whose screen name on Twitter was patio furniture, just like the person that spells it here, and I was like, oh, I wonder if it's the same person. Probably not, but you never know. It involved one Nikki Freed from Florida. But you guys will learn all about that soon. Anyways, alright, so I'm going to grab some of these super chats here. Let's see. Rose Blight says, harvest season, been in the fields the last few Fridays. Oh, that makes sense. And says, keep up the wonderful work. Well, thank you, Rose. Sue Thomas, thank you very much for the donation. Thank you as well, Chewy42. Let's see if I can see in this window, because it doesn't always show if it's stickers. Yep, Chewy sent a little sticker. Oh, and it kind of looks like a person with like a little baby something. That's cute. Trashman says, last year the McRib reference got us gross. You remember that? Wow, I am quite impressed. Ooh, all right, folks. So we have a lot going on in the news. I tried to find other things to cover, and really there's like no other things to cover this week. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial is it. So I don't know if you guys have been watching it. Oh, and thank you, Anonymous, for the tip. Thank you very much. Oh boy, so Kyle Rittenhouse trial. And there is the possibility that this stream will get nuked or terminated after the fact or flagged or something like that, because social media doesn't like Kyle Rittenhouse, quite frankly. We know for sure, like, there's proof now. Oh my goodness, Johnny B is here. Hello, Johnny B. Johnny B says, thanks for all you do. Well, thank you. That's pretty cool. So, if you've been on social media lately, particularly Twitter, the only things that we keep seeing on Twitter is, like, hashtag Kyle is guilty, all kinds of negative things about Kyle Rittenhouse and the Rittenhouse trial. Now, that could be, there is the slight possibility that that is in fact purely coincidental, as Twitter is a very left-leaning place and is very loud, despite the big, like, Twitterverse really only accounting for something like 2% of the American population or something like that, at least politically. There is some nasty, nasty stuff going around Twitter, and that's the stuff that's trending. Is Twitter suppressing positive stories about Kyle's innocence? Maybe. We have articles out now showing that, in fact, Facebook has been doing that, and right now you can't even search on Facebook for Kyle and get anything. You'll get nada, blank results. I've been watching the trial when I can on this channel. I might be pronouncing it wrong. I think it's pronounced Rikita Law. It's they show the PBS News Hour stream, and then there's a panel of lawyers on the side that discuss what they see and what's going on. I'm gonna be honest, some of it has been really difficult to watch. If you haven't been watching it, I don't know, maybe it's the pregnancy hormones. Some of it, it's tough, man. You watch this kid, and I think people forget that he's a kid. Like, he's 18 now, but when this happened, he was a 17-year-old. Even 18 is still a teenager, right? And people on social media are just being so cruel. There was an incident over the past week where Kyle took the stand in his own defense and completely broke down crying, and it was really difficult to see. And there's been some other moments when I've been watching where it looks like it might get to that point again, and it's just, I just want to give the kid a hug. It's so sad. So I've watched some of it. I've watched it in bits and pieces. So a lot of it is gonna be putting together, probably like you guys, what you're seeing in memes, what you're seeing in news articles. I have a couple clips here and there. I'm not really sure how much I am allowed to show. So, at least as far as the trial goes, like, I'm going to give you guys some information, but I think it's also going to be kind of a discussion with a lot of you guys in the chat to see what you guys think. Certainly, the media narrative that's going on is really bizarre because it's like you watch the trial, and in the trial, the evidence is the sky is blue. And you read the news articles, and the articles are like, oh, the sky is actually green and Kyle is racist. Or the judge is racist. Or it's just it's a lot to take in. A lot to take in. So we've got a lot of articles here. I don't have anything about today. So if you guys want to help me out with some information about what happened today, I know that today, I don't know if this is a thing that typically happens in trials, but as I was watching the end of it yesterday, all of a sudden the prosecution, who looks like Littlefinger, by the way. Is anyone else noticing that this guy looks like fucking Littlefinger from Game of Thrones? And he is just so, like, unlikable. It's him and this other guy whose, like, face I never see, because it's like every time they show him, his head is in his hands in disgust of how bad the prosecution was doing, until up until today, I hear that today the defense totally bombed. I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the accuracy of that. But they ended yesterday with the prosecution basically coming out and saying that they'd like to add charges. And to my understanding, they are adding lesser charges, presumably because they realized that they wouldn't be able to get a conviction on the charges they did have. And talking about those charges and whether or not the judge was going to admit them and all of that was today. And I guess the jury is getting the case on Monday now. And I heard that the defense really dropped the ball today. I don't know. So we're going to look into this a little bit. Jesse Meek says, hey everyone, sorry I'm late and that I can't stay. It's my nephew's 13th birthday. I got him his first pistol and we are all punching targets and having a big cookout. Oh, that sounds so fun. He says, catch y'all next week. We'll watch the stream tomorrow. Yeah, people are saying today was bad. Godkey says that today was bad. Yeah, people are saying that he does, in fact, look like Littlefinger. David Kunkel says the case will be used as precedent on whether or not you're allowed to defend yourself and whether the 2A has any meaning at all. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Okay, so Patrick Binder says the defense basically got the minor in possession charge thrown out today. Oh, okay, well then that's good, right? The main thing lefties say is Kyle should not have been there. How would you respond? Says Blue Lobster. Right, I can't think of the word for it. I read it like right before that I came on. But basically, the judge, I guess the big thing is the judge is allowing in the jury instructions, I can't think of the word, but basically, like, the media narrative that, like, oh, he was there because so he was looking for trouble and guilty by the fact that he was there, not necessarily guilty of the charges that were originally set forth. And there's a word for it. Can't think of what it is. I read it like 10 minutes ago. But anyways. So, okay, we're gonna jump to some actual articles here. Oh, and that's right, Q brings up the where do I get those exploding hollow points. There was a clip that I posted on Twitter where the prosecution was questioning Kyle about exploding bullets and saying that hollow points explode inside whatever they hit. And it's pretty ridiculous. That was one of the ridiculous things that came up. Omega says the prosecutor's name is Binger. The name Little Binger has been floating around. Also, I think Aidan Gillen is offended by these similarities. Maybe. We'll see. All right, so let's jump. We're gonna dive right into some of these here. All right, so the first article that I thought would be good to start with is this one from the Daily Wire. 13 key moments to know from the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Figured this would give us all a nice little summary. This is 2 days old, which in court years, televised trial years is ancient, I guess. But we're gonna start here because it's got some nice points and some nice summaries. So this is from 2 days ago, I believe. So again, it just mentions that he was 17 when he was arrested for fatally shooting 2 men as well as injuring a third during the unrest in Kenosha. And one of the people that he shot and passed away was one Joseph Rosenbaum, who has been or was convicted of things that I can't say on YouTube that involve children. There were several counts of these things, these crimes against children, and they were children under the age of 11. So I believe they were little boys. So already not a great dude. I believe the other guy had a history of domestic violence. Not good dudes, at least if you look at their rap sheets. Nonetheless, Rittenhouse was charged with 5 felony counts and 1 misdemeanor, including first-degree intentional homicide, first-degree reckless homicide, 2 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, attempted first-degree intentional homicide, and possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. And it sounds from folks in the chat like the possession charge, as of today, is basically null and void. He pled not guilty to all the charges in January and has claimed self-defense. So anyone who somehow is under a rock and hasn't known any of that, and there are people, it's all over social media. I've seen screenshots of people being like, oh, this whole time I thought he shot black guys. And that's why people were so upset, was because he shot black people. Especially with the narrative of him being a white supremacist. No, he is facing these charges, and the people that he happened to shoot were A, attacking him, and B, had rap sheets that were pretty ugly. The kind of rap sheets that actually get you knocked off in prison if you're not put in PC. If even the other criminals don't like you, maybe you're not a great person. But anyways, so first big point is that the man that Rittenhouse fatally shot acted, quote, erratic, hurled the N-word, and shouted, shoot me near the gas station, witness testifies. This is key moment number 1. A social media influencer, Kerry Washington, testified that Joseph Rosenbaum hurled the N-word and yelled "shoot me" repeatedly near a Kenosha gas station on the night of August 25th, 2020. Washington also told the jury he made a mental note of Rosenbaum due to his, quote, erratic behavior. This same person, according to the trial, when prosecutor Thomas Binger suggested it was impossible for this reporter from the Daily Caller, McGinnis, to know what Rosenbaum was trying to do as he lunged, McGinnis replied, well, he said F you, and he reached for the weapon. And this is according to NPR. There was a whole big thing yesterday that was absolutely ridiculous when Kyle was on the stand, and it equated to, so the prosecution is saying that basically saying Kyle was asking for it by being there and happening to have a gun, right? They're like, oh, well, you went to this place and you had a gun, so clearly you had no intent other than to shoot people, is the argument that the prosecution was making yesterday. Now, when it came to discussing Rosenbaum and how he lunged at Kyle and grabbed the barrel of the rifle, the prosecution actually said to him, they were like, well, it basically came down to like, well, why did you shoot him? And he was like, well, he was chasing me. And they're like, yeah, but like you had a gun, so obviously you wouldn't have been a threat to him. And first of all, dude was clearly crazy with his rap sheet and the fact that he's lunging and chasing after an armed kid. But nonetheless, Kai was like, oh, well, he grabbed the barrel of the gun, and if he had gotten it, then he would have shot me and probably shot other people. And the prosecution actually said, well, you can't know that. You can't know that if he had a gun, he would have been intent on harming people. But their whole argument is that Kyle was intent on harming people because he had a gun. And I really hope that the jury can see through some of this shit. I don't know how much confidence I have in all of that, but yeah, Brett Prosner says we're able to victim blame here. Apparently, why were you wearing that short skirt, young lady? You were asking for it. Exactly, and the people who are, making fun of Kyle, attacking Kyle throughout this on social media, it's really interesting because a lot of them, you look at their profiles and they support criminal justice reform. Just clearly not for the white Kenosha kid, apparently. And notably, McGinnis took off his own shirt to treat Rosenbaum within moments of the shooting, admitting that he felt in danger. Alright, so we also have, I didn't know this one, an older white male juror was dismissed from the case over a joke he cracked about Jacob Blake. That is in poor taste, but maybe he just didn't want to be there. The joke that the juror allegedly said was, why did the Kenosha police shoot Jacob Blake 7 times? Because they ran out of bullets. Oh, that is pretty bad. After prosecution raised the issue, Judge Bruce Schroeder asked about the joke, and the juror said it had nothing to do with the case. He was dismissed, leaving 19 jurors to hear the rest of the case. Point number 4, never before seen FBI video footage revealed Rosenbaum hiding between a cluster of cars before chasing down Rittenhouse, leading to the fatal encounter. Well, that is pretty shady. I did not know that one yet either. The footage shows Rittenhouse by himself hastily walking down the sidewalk before Rosenbaum, wearing a mask, comes out of what defense has called a hiding spot between a cluster of cars. After a verbal exchange, Rittenhouse continues in the same direction and Rosenbaum chases after him. In the image below, Kenosha Police Detective Martin Howard confirmed on the stand that person of interest 1 is Rosenbaum and person of interest 2 is Rittenhouse. So let's see. So here is 1, so that's Rosenbaum, and then here is Kyle walking down the side of the street. So we have Rosenbaum here. Yeah, he's hiding in the cars, and Kyle walking here. A lot of the evidence that the prosecution has showed, by the way, I watched for like, I feel like half an hour as they showed this same blurry drone footage, and all they did was like back up and down between the same 5 seconds of the drone taking off, then being like, back up, and it went back down, drone taking up, okay, back up the footage, drone going back down, and it didn't show anything. I don't even, they were like, oh, well, can't you see you're like holding the weapon there or something, and you couldn't see shit. All of this evidence that the prosecution has put forth of pictures and videos are completely blurry. And there's been, like, you can't tell what it's supposed to show. And there's actually a really good analysis that I found on Twitter where someone took they talked about pixels for hours yesterday. That was one of the reasons I had to tune it off yesterday, was because they really did. They talked about fucking pixels for hours. But he used the one that the prosecution took, and then he put it next to the original and kind of like went back and forth, and you can actually see that there's a spot that the prosecution is trying to say is Kyle's hand holding the rifle up. But if you go back and forth in the footage, the spot they're saying is his hand is clearly the side mirror of a car. I don't know. I don't know if like someone got up there and was like, "Hey, you're dumb. Look at this. This is what it is." I mean, they wouldn't say you're dumb in court, but it would be nice if they did that. I am sure that that's not what happened. I'll try to show that in a bit. But I mean, the evidence that the prosecution has put forth has just been really ridiculous things like that, and it's like you're squinting at the screen, and here you are, like, 6 or 12, maybe 18 inches from your fancy 1080p monitor. You can't even tell what you're supposed to be looking at here. Like, imagine what the jury is supposed to be looking at. And there was a couple times that they were like, well, don't you see this? And Kyle was like, no, I don't. And I guess today the judge sort of like boomered his way into pointing that out and being like, yeah, that's blurry, you can't see anything. But we'll get there too. So, point number 5. Police confirm that Rittenhouse shouted, friendly, 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 but Rosenbaum continued to chase him. Reviewing witness footage, Kenosha Police Detective Martin Howard testified that it was correct that Rittenhouse's repeated yells of friendly did not dissuade Mr. Rosenbaum from continuing to chase him down. Now, the prosecution took this and they literally said, well, if you felt the need to yell that you were friendly, then obviously you knew that the people there were going to consider you a threat and you were looking for trouble. That was their argument. Like, I realize that it is their job to prosecute this case. They are doing their job, and the evidence of self-defense is so clear that they have to be grasping at straws, and this is what they're being paid to do. But like the mental gymnastics that this prosecution is going through, and it makes them look so stupid, and I don't even know. But they are like directly contradicting their own arguments. They are calling witnesses to the stand that confirm the defense points rather than their own. At one point, they got berated by the judge because they were trying to claim that Kyle, using his right to, silence, to plead the fifth, they claimed that because he didn't talk about his actions that night prior to the trial, that was evidence of his guilt, when first of all, he completely has the right to not talk about the events of that night prior to the trial. He was probably told not to talk about them because it was an active court case going on. I have not exactly been in a lot of active court cases, but the one that I was in, involved, basically, there was a person who was threatening me, and I had to get a restraining order, and I was specifically told not to discuss anything about it until we had our day in court. That's what I was specifically told by the court, by the magistrate, by everyone involved, and I'm pretty sure that's like general legal knowledge, that's general legal practice. But prosecution was saying that because he was seen in the media and talked about like family life or things like that, but didn't talk specifically about his motivations that night or the events of that night, that it was proof that he was guilty. They also tried to bring in evidence that the judge banned ahead of time. They made the kid cry on the stand. But like I said, here we have this point about how Kyle was trying to tell people, friendly, 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 I'm friendly, and one of the prosecution's arguments was, well, if you said that, then you knew that they wouldn't think that you were friendly, and you knew that they would not take kindly to your presence and would react violently. That's one of their arguments. Point number 6, Gage Grosskreutz, I'm not even sure how to say it. Man shot by Rittenhouse confirms teen only fired after being advanced on with gun pointed at him. This is a fun thing. This has inspired many memes. This was the moment where after it happened, you can see in the background the prosecution with their head in their hands. This guy has now gone on CNN and Anderson Cooper, Good Morning America, and completely changed his statement from what he said on the stand while in court. Under questioning from Rittenhouse defense attorney Corey Chirafisi, Grosskreutz testified that Rittenhouse fired on him after Grosskreutz had pointed his pistol at Rittenhouse, the Daily Wire reported. Chirafisi began the line of questioning with a still image from a video showing the moment Rittenhouse shot Grosskreutz, showing his arm being vaporized, as the witness said. Gage gross arm, people are saying. I was like, oh, let me glance in the chat because someone will tell me the right way to say it, but you guys are saying gross arm and gross creps. So, gross Kretz? I don't know. You guys aren't helping the way I thought you would. So, here is it wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him with your gun pointed at him, that he fired, right? And the witness who was shot by Rittenhouse says, correct. There is video of this somewhere going around with the Curb Your Enthusiasm music after it that I would like to play for you, but I'll definitely get a copyright strike for that. So, Squid Monkey says the fact that he's changing his story when he goes on the news constitutes perjury, and it should, but won't be prosecuted. You're right. I mean, it won't be prosecuted. It will not. Rittenhouse trial witness says that prosecutors asked him to change his statement to police. Prosecution is, of course, denying this. Amateur photographer Nathan DeBruin took the stand on Tuesday as one of 4 defense witnesses called that day. According to the Daily Wire, during his testimony, DeBruin recounted an earlier uncomfortable meeting with prosecutors in which DeBruin said they pushed him to change a statement he gave to police regarding another man, Joshua Zeminski, whom prosecutors have charged with arson. And I believe, yes. So, Breitbart also reported on this and has the exact, here we go. This is the exact moment, actually. So the original statement here by DeBruin says Mr. Binger it said that he made a statement. He was called down to the district attorney's office He was called into a room, sat at a table, handed my police statement, got to read over my police statement, and then I was asked if I would like to add anything to the police statement, and I said that I would not. He added, Mr. Binger pulled out a cell phone and showed me a video and also a photo, which was actually one photo that I brought today, and asked me if I knew who a gentleman was in that photo, and I said I did not. He said, this is Joshua Zeminski. Mr. Binger also has a case with him, and I am subpoenaed for that case also. He says, well, that's who it is. He put the cell phone down, then he picked up the phone again and said, who is this? And I confusingly said, Joshua Zeminski, and he said, would you like to add that to your statement? And I just felt I didn't want to change my statement. So while he was on the stand on Tuesday, and De Bruin said this, Kraus said, we had you read over your statement, right? And Kraus is the other prosecutor. De Bruin responded, correct. Kraus followed, and we asked if you knew anything beyond that statement. De Bruin said, correct. Kraus then said, we didn't ask you to change it, and he said, yes, you did. So that is that exact interaction there. The judge has also tossed the curfew charge after prosecution falls short on evidence. Judge Bruce Schroeder tossed an additional curfew charge on Tuesday, ruling that prosecutors had failed to produce any evidence that a curfew had been in place, according to CNN. The judge left in place the misdemeanor gun charge against Rittenhouse, overruling the defense's request to have it dismissed. Rittenhouse's attorneys have previously argued that applicable Wisconsin gun law is unconstitutional, according to the Kenosha News. The defense's failure to get the misdemeanor gun charge dismissed is a rare win for the prosecution over the past week of testimony. Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger said, and James Kraus rested the prosecution's case on Tuesday after several significant setbacks in its case. Yeah, they had a real bad time. Number 9, Rittenhouse gets called to the stand by defense and breaks down into sobs. So this one we actually have a clip of, and I'm going to play this because people on social media are making fun of this kid and saying that it's fake crying, and they're saying some really horrible things. They're saying that he should get like an Emmy for his performance, quote unquote, during this. And I just think really, like, for me, I'm going to make it smaller so you guys will be able to see the whole thing here. Actually, can I make it full screen? Yes, I can. People are saying that this is an Emmy award-winning performance, and myself, like, first of all, it's pretty upsetting to see a kid have this kind of emotion, but also, as someone who works in mental health, like, I can look at this, and before they even admitted, so today one of the things that came out is that Kyle is, in fact, in therapy for PTSD, and in seeing this clip, I could have told you. I saw this, and for some reason it hadn't completely occurred to me before that, like, wow, this kid probably has PTSD, and then I saw this clip and I was like, oh my god, this kid has PTSD, and he is clearly having a flashback or something in this clip, and people were just making fun of him. These same people who on social media are always complaining about toxic masculinity and how men need to be able to cry and be in touch with their emotions, and then they're making memes of this kid's face during this scene and making fun of him, and it's awful. So let me make sure that you guys get this audio. So this clip, I mean, it's sad. Full disclaimer, it's very sad.
Died, and I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what I. That's what I run.
We're gonna just take time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're gonna take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break.
Now, I'm also going to pause here for a second because if you haven't been watching the trial, I would like to bring your attention to this tissue box here that has, it kind of looks like the American flag. It's got like the blue with the stars here, and it's got some stripes there. So this tissue box, according to the left, is proof that the judge is biased and is a racist. That's something that we'll get into a little bit later here. But so after this scene and the other things that I mentioned earlier about trying to introduce the evidence that was previously banned, after going after Kyle for his right to remain silent, and basically spitting all over the Constitution, and the way of questioning was flat out attacking him, the judge called recess. During that recess, he reamed out the prosecution, and the jury didn't see this, but if you're watching at home, you can see it. And because of that, now, first it was like, all right, well, maybe the defense should, try to get this dismissed as a mistrial with prejudice. Now, a mistrial with prejudice would mean that it's done, charges are done, like they can't retry Kyle, and he just walks, and that's it. Once the news that the defense or people in defense of Kyle were saying that this is a thing that should be done, the left turned around, and I have an article about it. We're going to see all of their claims, and claimed that because of that tissue box, and because the judge's phone rang for a second during some of the proceedings, and he has, God Bless the USA as his ringtone, which I'm pretty sure, isn't that the same song that was big around, September 11th? They're claiming that that is Trump's theme song, and so that's proof that the judge is biased and is a Trump supporter. They called it the MAGA anthem, and so now they are saying that the case should be ruled as a mistrial because the judge is biased. So no matter what, folks are not going to be happy. But that's one of the things that went on. So the background and context of that clip that we just watched is the defense called Rittenhouse to the stand on Wednesday, recalling moments leading to the fatal shooting of Rosenbaum. The teen broke into sobs, and Rittenhouse, detailing the moments before he fired, recalled Rosenbaum yelling "burn in hell" to him as Rittenhouse yelled "friendly, friendly, friendly" in an attempt to calm him, but he was chased anyways. He talked about feeling trapped, and that was the clip that we saw, and then they called a 10-minute recess. Rittenhouse reveals Rosenbaum threatened to kill him 2 times before the incident unfolded. And it's funny, the prosecution is claiming that this does not constitute as a threat. Rittenhouse revealed during his testimony that Rosenbaum threatened to kill him 2 times prior to the fatal incident. "If I catch any of you effers alone, I'm going to effing kill you," Rosenbaum said to Rittenhouse and a friend. The teen testified. This has been confirmed by a few witnesses, and at this point, I believe. On another occasion, he told the 2 males, "I'm going to cut your effing hearts out and kill you N-words," Rittenhouse said, noting that Rosenbaum did not use the term N-word, but used the actual N-word that you're not supposed to say. And yet the left is still defending this guy. During cross-examination, prosecution tries to get Rittenhouse to admit he intentionally killed during the riot. Here is the exchange between the DA and Rittenhouse. I hate Thomas Binger, man. Does this go to a video? That would make it so much easier. It does not. Okay, so we'll just read it. Alright, so Binger says, everybody that you shot at that night you intended to kill, correct? Kyle says, I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me. Binger says, by killing them. He says, I did what I had to do to stop the person who was attacking me, which was a really good answer, especially for his claim of self-defense. Binger says, by killing them. And Kyle says, 2 of them passed away, but I stopped the threat from attacking me. And Binger says, by using deadly force. Kyle says, I used deadly force, and Binger says that you knew was going to kill. Kyle says, I didn't know if it was going to kill them, but I used deadly force to stop the threat that was attacking me. And when watching this on Rakita Law, they said that this line of questioning was like speculation, and that Kyle couldn't know that necessarily that it was actually going to kill the person, and that this is like basically trying to trap him. Judge Schroeder admonishes prosecutor Binger twice during cross-examination of Rittenhouse. So the judge accused the prosecution of grave constitutional violation. We talked about that already, about the Fifth Amendment rights. And the judge sent the jury out when Binger, quote, began to veer into a line of questioning that Binger did not approve with Schroeder beforehand, and that Schroeder had suggested he would forbid in pretrial hearings. I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that, and it gives, well, I'll leave it at that, so I don't know what you're up to. Now, the next day, he had to talk to the prosecution again, and, like, Binger just had this horrible look on his face, and the judge actually says to him, why are you looking at me like that? What's with that facial expression you're making? And the lawyer basically is like, well, you know, you attacked me yesterday. And Schroeder says, I didn't attack you. I was defending the way and explaining to you the way that the Supreme Court has interpreted the Constitution for the last 50 years. If a guy's an assistant DA, he should know this, but you know. So, we got that. Now, number 13, Rittenhouse defense asks for a mistrial with prejudice. This was following the lunch break after the cross-examination that we just talked about. And they said that the defense is arguing the prosecution was out of line and his conduct was extreme. The Circuit Court Judge Bruce E. Schroeder says he will take the motion under advisement after back and forth with the prosecutor in question. The judge adds that he does not believe that Binger was acting in good faith. And then it has a couple of pretrial moments. This was when the judge said that they couldn't use the word victim, and that the prosecutor listed numerous alleged crimes of man Kyle Rittenhouse fatally shot and downplays them as irrelevant. So during a pretrial hearing, the prosecution tried to argue that the alleged past actions of Rosenbaum have no connection to the deceased being fatally shot by Rittenhouse, attempting to illustrate the point that there's no factual commonality between prior alleged actions of Rosenbaum on the night of the incident to the shooting. Prosecution listed off accusations from defense and downplayed the relevance. And here's a laundry list. Let's see if so yeah, at age 19, Rosenbaum was sentenced to prison for crimes against children that were all boys between the ages of 9 and 11. And Snopes has even confirmed this. I'm gonna move that off screen so YouTube doesn't get mad at me. Says the documents said Rosenbaum was temporarily living with the boy's parents after his mother had kicked him out for disobeying her rules. And over the course of his weeks-long stay, he had crimes against the children, showed them things that kids that age shouldn't see. And he was sentenced to prison for roughly 15 years, and authorities believed at the time his risk to recidivate being of great concern to the community. That means his risk to re-offend. And actually, if you look at the records, his records, they say that he was supposed to be on the registry, lifetime register, and that he was actually in non-compliance of his parole / probation at the time. I see that we've gotten some super chats in, so I want to make sure that I grab these before I get into some of the crazy stuff that's being said in the legacy media. Let's see. We got Jesse, we got Q, we got Omega. Okay, Rick Kinnison says hopefully the judge will make a summary decision to acquit rather than give it to the jury, as they will likely be coerced into passing guilty verdict. That is a concern, especially how folks are already threatening to riot if there is not a guilty verdict. I'm already seeing headlines about how cops are already preparing for the worst. They're preparing in case he walks or doesn't get the amount of charges or type of charges that the left wants, and they riot and burn things, which is a totally plausible thing that could happen. Hidden says, lost a military friend to suicide when he would come to me for help. This is near the exact reaction he would have when flashbacks kicked in. I only hope Kyle's demons don't overwhelm him like it does to many of our veterans. That is a really good point. Anyone with PTSD has, unfortunately, a very high risk of suicide, especially among veterans. It's even higher among veterans, but hopefully he is getting some really good mental health care. I'm sorry to hear about your friend. Yeah, it's like I said, it was very difficult to watch, and I mean, I can't even imagine, and I really gotta give it to him. People were making fun of him for crying, but you know, there were times that he was on the stand, and yeah, his voice was shaking, but he was adamant in, you know, that it was self-defense, and he answered the questions very well. I mean, as well as you could expect from someone that age. And I see people are like, oh, you're calling him a kid. He's not a kid. He's a young man. I am quite a bit older than an 18-year-old. I call anyone younger than me kids. I mean, it's just, it's you know, I'm not calling him a little child, though technically when this happened, he was 17, so he was a minor. It's just a term that I use to describe people that are younger than me. But I can't even imagine being his age and going through that experience. And yeah, okay, you could argue that maybe he shouldn't have been there, that he shouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. That is a fair argument. But at the same time, you have to remember, people's brains aren't even fully developed until they're the age of 25, and kids his age are not exactly known for their good assessment of risk and their planning abilities and their abilities to not make impulsive decisions. So you can't expect someone his age, number one, to have the same mental capacities as far as risk assessment and things like that as a full adult. And, you know, this kid was 17 years old. He was being attacked. You know, at one point he's down on the ground. He's being kicked in the head. There's a guy hitting him with a skateboard. And that was another thing. When I watched it yesterday, I think it was either Wednesday or yesterday, the prosecution was trying to claim that he had no right to bear his gun at someone who was kicking him in the face because they argued that that wasn't a weapon. Now, it's not a weapon in that if I take this bottle and smash you over the head with it, right? But in Massachusetts, at least, when I was working with the criminologic population, kicking someone like that is an assault charge, and it's considered a weapon in that it is a shod foot. In Massachusetts, at least, that is a felony. We also know that more people die by hands and feet every year than they do by rifles. So, technically speaking, especially when you're at that distance where, like, you're holding a rifle and some guy is kicking you in the head, really, the foot is the greater of the two weapons. Anything within a distance of, like, 15 feet, if you are not at the ready, you're gonna get attacked. That was one of the things that I remember was in even my concealed carry class that I had to take in Massachusetts. You have someone with a knife and a gun, and if you're within a 15-foot distance, that person with the knife is getting to you and stabbing you before you can even, like, aim and shoot. So, it would have been nice if some of these things had been brought up and discussed. They were not, but, you know, whatever. So, bottom line, like, going through what this kid went through and then to be on the stand and be questioned in that way and to be ridiculed by the media and half of the population and to be told, you know, oh, you're a murderer, you're a white supremacist, and to have your mother in the stands just bawling her eyes out, like, I gotta give it to the kid for the composure that he did have. That is some really intense stuff. Squid says, irrelevant, he was asked to be there, he had an invitation. Sure, you can allow him to understand his surroundings and act accordingly regardless of age. Right, I mean, yeah, and people were like, oh, well, he didn't belong there, but if I believe that he worked there, right, and knew people there, and as Squid says, he was invited to be there, so Mr. E says that he had a chunk of rock thrown at his head. He had been kicked in the head when he was down and hit with a skateboard twice. If Kyle lost consciousness, he was dead. Oh, absolutely. And basically the prosecution's whole argument is that he should have just let the mob attack him and kill him. That is a shitty fucking argument. I'm sorry. But, I mean, how many times do we see that argument from the left when it comes to any story of self-defense? Oh, someone was raping you and you shot them. Oh, you should have just let them rape you. Oh, this person broke into your house and might have murdered you and you shot at them. Oh, well, then you should have just let them break into your house and take your stuff and potentially murder you. That is always the argument that they give, that you are better off just rolling over and taking whatever actions a criminal wants to do to you rather than defend yourself. So, I mean, I suppose it shouldn't be that surprising that's the argument that they're making, but it's a stupid argument. And I really hope that the jurors see through this, but Polaris 589 says, how many of the jury are getting red-pilled about the press? I don't know. I mean, who knows how many people are even, how many people are even going to the trial and then going home and looking at the headlines? If they are, that would be great. I mean, they're definitely going to get red-pilled from that, as we'll see in a second with some of the headlines and things. Omega says, it's funny how the same people who call others conspiracy theorists bound through mental gymnastics of Olympic proportions in their own. You are absolutely right. Alec 30 Glock Baldwin says, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Damn, dude. Between that screen name and the message, whoo, ooh, that's edgy. Third IQ says, the jury knows they were filmed, and I really hope they are as strong as the judge. Screw FB censors. Yeah, I mean, it's really going to come down to, I think, if they pick a verdict that they believe is right or pick a verdict out of fear. Right? Because we also had, with the George Floyd case, there were names of jurors that were leaked. Jurors were being threatened. So I'm sure that some of that is in the back of their minds as well. We shall see. Nurse Juju says Kyle was hyperventilating. He's actually gasping to catch a breath before he breaks. He's extremely flushed, showing true stress reaction. Travis Scott's insincere apology post Astroworld was, quote, so real, double standard, right? Right, exactly. And it's funny because I saw some people making this argument on Twitter and people were responding like, oh, well, there isn't a dedicated cry to show PTSD. That's not in the DSM, so you can't compare the two and say that it's a real cry and a fake cry. Because there was also comparisons to Blasey Ford during the Kavanaugh hearings. Computing Support LLC says, I'm a disabled vet with PTSD. I find it sickening that lame athlete would pick on this kid when his whole life is on the line. Yes, in case you missed it, LeBron said that Kyle wasn't crying and that he had just eaten a box of lemon heads before coming into court. Seriously. Jason J says, fun fact, the DA, the mayor, the detective, and the city attorney are all family members. Interesting. I did not know that. I would think that that would be some kind of weird conflict of interest that would require a recusal or something, but apparently not. Wildcat Kyle says, is the prosecution arguing that the drone footage shows Kyle pointing his gun before putting down the fire extinguisher? Yes. Yes. You know what? I will pull up, let me see if I can find... Ooh, it might be tough to find that again. But, so there was an analysis that I found on Twitter. And, let's see. Who... I think that Sobek retweeted it. So, let me go on Pasobek's thing. Yes, so it's super grainy footage. And their argument is that when he drops the fire extinguisher... Oh, this is just breaking while we were on the stream that the FBI infrared video proves Kyle's arm is pointing at Zeminski's and not the rifle. Wow, and that the FBI withheld this evidence for 14 months. So FBI infrared footage proves that Kyle was not pointing the gun. Okay. Let's see. Let me scroll through. I'll recognize it when I see it. But yeah, the prosecution is putting up some really crappy analysis. So here we go. So let me pull up this tweet separately. And we'll watch this little video analysis here.
So I wanted to do...
Make it full screen first. Yes, so this is the clip in question that involves the fire extinguisher and whether or not Kyle was pointing the gun. And you can clearly see, like, this is the quality of the footage that they're showing to the jury from, like, across the room and being like, yes, you can clearly see blah, blah, blah. So let's watch this real quick. It's about 2 minutes.
So I wanted to do a quick analysis of the video in addition to what I had done earlier. I showed what the prosecution was going to be getting at. I saw it in advance, did a little analysis, and I was able to show you. Now we actually have the prosecution's exhibit in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. So this is the exhibit where they claim it shows he's aiming the rifle at the Kaminsky's. Right here, you can see him standing there. This is the edited version, the enhanced version. The one on the right is the original. They're more pixelated. You can see some areas of distortion, big differences.
So
if you look at the big white sign up at the top,
yes,
it's a lot different when you see the version on the left, as are some other artifacts. So there are a lot of artifacts being introduced. But what you'll notice about this, and this is very important, a couple things. One, they're saying this is the head. This would be Kyle's elbow bent. This black line right there is the rifle. This over here, right, would be the support hand. Again, You see this white, blurry blub right there. That would be his support hand. That's what they're claiming. So they're suggesting that that's him holding up the rifle. Number one, this would be him holding it lefty. If that's his arm and his elbow bent, he's holding it lefty. And in every single photo, Kyle Rittenhouse holds his rifle righty. He's never been seen in any of the hours and hours of video footage holding his rifle lefty. Now, this is a lightened version of the video, which I did an analysis on earlier, and there's something else that's very important that you're going to want to notice here. You see him run up, drop the fire extinguisher. Runs up, drops the fire extinguisher. I did this in my earlier video, so check that out if you want more detail. Then, when he lifts up his arm, right here, this is where they say that's him aiming the rifle. However, do you remember right here how it showed his elbow bent and his support hand up front? Take a look at something. Why, as he's running up and drops the fire extinguisher, let me grab another screenshot and show you. Why is his support hand already there holding up the rifle? That's part of the vehicle. That is not his support hand. That is not Kyle holding up the front of the rifle, as would appear in this, as it would appear in this. This white dot is part of the vehicle and is not Kyle's support hand, and it is not him holding up the rifle.
And so that is the clip in question regarding the fire extinguisher. And this is from Darth Crypto.
So I wanted to do a quick analysis.
Whoops, and it started replaying again. Sorry about that. So that's the clip in question regarding the support hand and fire extinguisher thing. And that also reminded me when, talking about this clip and the fire extinguisher, that also reminded me, I've been seeing a meme going around of a picture that is very much not Kyle. It's a picture that stems from a Mother Jones article about something else, like years before anything with Kyle Rittenhouse, and it shows a little kid being dressed in a KKK robe, and I've been seeing a meme of the picture of that kid and a picture of Kyle going around claiming it's the same person and saying that he was trained to be a domestic terrorist by his KKK parents. Those are the types of things that we're seeing on social media. So yeah, that was some of the footage there. David McCoy says, if the looters were not there, none of this would have happened. Valid. Jito463 says he's a kid because he's a goat. There we go. We'll go with that explanation. Leadpilled556 says we've been sending kids Kyles to the sandbox for 20 years. Yes, that is true. We have. It took me a second. Polaris589 says also, how many of the jury... Oh, that was right. About the jury getting red-pilled. Trying to keep up, guys. Sorry. The 3 people he shot, says Pinking554, were from further away than Kyle was. Those 3 people shouldn't have been there as well. If you think that Kyle shouldn't have been there, that is also a very good point. Python Pro Freak says that's the best, quote, shitty fucking reason. Love it. Well, it is a shitty reason. Timmer says never trust an actor with a gun. Abraham Lincoln, probably. And Nurse Juju says may not be part of DSM, but a standard assessment with treatment of shock, which is standard with medical, military first response assessment. Experience of shock is part of PTSD, not seen with Gage. I agree completely. So, let's see. So we saw that clip, right, of, well, we didn't see the clip. We read about how Gage admitted that he didn't get shot by Kyle until he pointed his gun at Kyle. And he went on Good Morning America, and then he also went on Anderson Cooper to talk about it. And, this is what he says.
I just want to play something you said in court to make sure that we have everything right. This was on Monday when you were being questioned by the defense.
When you were standing 3 to 5 feet from him with your arms up in the air, he never fired, right?
Correct.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct. And on Good Morning America today, you said that you were absolutely not pointing your gun at Rittenhouse. Can you clarify that?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, that was a very tense situation, something that I've never been in before. It's like having never been shot before. I think it's important to note, though, that specifically during Crawford.
So him never having been shot before until that moment that night is his reason and excuse for saying one thing on the stand and another thing on Good Morning America, is his first explanation.
And if there is a skilled attorney, they're able to present questions to help support their narrative. That's their job. And with one of the exhibits that Attorney Sharafi had introduced, there's a photo of me with my gun pointed towards the defendant, either just after or right during. He had shot me in my right arm. I think it's important to note, though, that the physiology of my wound would be inconsistent with somebody being shot with their arm in, we'll say, the traditional way that you would point a gun at somebody or something. The only way that I could have sustained the injury that I have is if I had been shot with my arms up.
And photograph evidence that was even presented in court shows that that is a lie. And one of the things that he testified while on stand, clearly they showed the picture of him pointing at Kyle, and he's pointing at Kyle, and it showed his arm actually being vaporized while he was pointing his gun at Kyle. And to say that, oh no, it just looked like that because that's the way my arm was stuck after being shot or something, is also a shitty fucking explanation. It's just not what happened, and it's not what he testified to in court. Timmy says, what has 1.5 arms and no conscience? That's pretty rough. Hidden says, not Kyle related, but before I leave, I just wanted to say I love your Star City game, Matt. Thank you for being awesome. Oh, you noticed that? Yeah. I mean, it's not mine. It's my husband's, but the art is really cool, and it makes for a really nice, like, writing and mouse pad there. But I am familiar with Magic the Gathering and all of that fun stuff. All right, so let's see. So we have let's see, because I wanna get to some of this James O'Keefe stuff if we can as well. So this same guy here, who admitted to pointing his gun at Rittenhouse on the stand, derides Kyle for crying like a child. And just days after he appeared on the stand, Gage went on Good Morning America and derided defendant Kyle Rittenhouse for crying as he testified about the moments leading up to the shooting. He says, to me, it seemed like a child who had just gotten caught doing something that he wasn't supposed to, more upset that he was caught and less upset about what he had done and what he had taken and the numerous lives that he affected through his actions. And he says, I don't believe that Kyle was in imminent danger for his own life, and called him an active shooter. And he says that people need to pay attention to the inconsistent statements of the defendant. How ironic is that? It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So we also have this article from Breitbart where we have a witness said that Kyle did in fact try to de-escalate the riot. So this is a freelance journalist, Andrew Drew Hernandez, testified Thursday in the trial and said that Kyle tried to de-escalate a conflict between rioters and armed guards watching a local business. So this guy had traveled around previously documenting the BLM riots and was called as a defense witness, and said that Rittenhouse had been successful, at least for that moment, in diffusing tension between the two groups on August 25th. And the testimony was relevant because prosecutors have sought to portray Rittenhouse's actions as provocative, Under state law in Wisconsin, self-defense can be invoked only if the defendant did not provoke an attack. And so that's why it's important and unfortunate that that's the word I was looking for, provocation, earlier, that the judge gave the jury the instructions to consider provocation and is allowing it. So that's really unfortunate because, I mean, if you get the right people, obviously, as we're seeing on social media and in some of these headlines, they are making an argument that Kyle provoked it, the whole victim blaming thing. So, if the defendant did provoke an attack, he or she could only then use deadly force in self-defense if it was reasonable to fear death or serious bodily harm. So, Hernandez said that Rosenbaum, he was the one that charged and lunged at Kyle, was the first person Rittenhouse shot, and that he became agitated when he saw someone put out a dumpster fire that rioters had been trying to use to obstruct the road. After that point, Hernandez said the rioters identified the individual who had used the fire extinguisher with the volunteer guards. They then turned their attention away from police and towards the guards who had gathered at a nearby gas station. He testified that Rosenbaum led the charge into the gas station and became physically aggressive, shouting, "Shoot me, N-word," to provoke a fight with the guards who had gathered there. And there is footage to show this encounter as well that was shown to the jury. Later, Hernandez added he saw Rosenbaum trying to light another fire, this time with his face partly concealed by a t-shirt. Kyle, or a person with purple gloves, then put out that second fire and asked if anyone needs medical. And then that is when he saw Rosenbaum charge Rittenhouse from behind and saw and heard a firearm discharge, not from Rittenhouse. When Rittenhouse turned around, Hernandez testified he saw Rosenbaum charging towards him. And we all know what happened with that. And cross-examination. See, this is what the prosecution is doing. Prosecution says, oh, well, you're biased because you called the BLM protests riots. And thankfully, the judge intervened and said that this is not a political trial. But nonetheless, there was also someone who testified that basically after, this incident with Rosenbaum happened, Kyle is running down the street, right? And he comes up with, another person, and the person is asking him what's going on, and the person testified that he thought he heard Kyle say, "I'm working with the police." Kyle said, "I'm going to the police," or "I'm getting the police," something like that. But they're, running neck and neck here. And the guy said that he thought that he heard Kyle say, "I'm with the police," or "working with the police." And they keep going their separate ways. And then at one point, this guy changes his mind, turns around, and starts running with the crowd back at Kyle to attack Kyle. So that also means that one of the guys testified and was involved in this, decided to chase down Kyle and try to hurt Kyle under the assumption that he was a police officer or a police informant. No one seems to be commenting on that. That's kind of a big deal. And now, as to this claim that it's not a political trial, check this out from the New York Times. In scrutinized Kyle Rittenhouse trial, it's the judge commanding attention. Judge Bruce Schroeder, who has presided over Mr. Rittenhouse's homicide trial, has drawn notice for sparring with prosecutors and offering historical commentary. And it's so funny because the quote-unquote historical commentary was like a quote from like FDR or something like that, and they're saying that he is clearly a Republican and he's clearly a Donald Trump fan and blah blah blah. Like, I don't think Trump would be quoting FDR, or conservatives would be quoting FDR in a positive way, but okay. All right, so this is the kind of stuff that we are seeing in the mainstream media, legacy media narrative about the trial. They say, it is not every day that jurors in a criminal trial applaud a witness. But that was how the final day of testimony in the homicide trial of Kyle Rittenhouse began on Thursday. Now note, already this is biased and incorrect. And yes, Zach, look at that scene change. Thank you. My friend Zach is here. So what actually happened is the judge said, hey, it's Veterans Day. Any veterans here? Let's give them a round of applause. It just so happened to be that there was only one veteran present, and it was a witness for the defense. The New York Times, see, this is what the legacy media does. They take that, and instead of being like, oh, an applause for veterans, and it happens to be this guy, no, they're saying that the judge purposely had the jury and the crowd applaud a witness. See how that works? Noting that it was Veterans Day, the judge urged people in the courtroom to clap for military veterans moments after he discovered that the only veteran in the room appeared to be the next witness for the defense, an expert on use of force. Judge Bruce Schroeder, who has presided over the trial and is the longest-serving state trial court judge in Wisconsin, has drawn attention in recent days as the judge's courtroom style, stern, chatty, and sometimes prone to shouting, has played out on a national stage. Now, they're complaining that this guy is getting attention, but then also writing a whole article about him and his bulky Chicago Blackhawks coat or a Milwaukee Brewers jacket. Okay. He has sparred with prosecutors, he's launched into explanations of the fall of Rome, and quoted FDR. The judge has said that he has overseen more homicide trials than any other judge in the state, but perhaps none has garnered more attention than the Rittenhouse trial. Closing arguments are expected on Monday, and it talks about, the charges and blah, blah, blah. Now, noting widespread interest in the trial, Schroeder has suggested that he hopes to explain his rulings thoroughly in court. In many cases where another judge might respond to an objection with just a word, he has discussed the law and why he did what he did for several minutes. I think that that's great, honestly, because even the New York Times admits it's a strategy that can be helpful for people unfamiliar with the legal intricacies of a trial, but they're also saying, well, it could create issues for an appeal if he were to be convicted. So they're arguing that he shouldn't be doing it, basically, because they're already expecting that they're not going to like the results and there's going to be an appeal. They also note how he didn't allow them to use the word victim. And here's the part about the veterans. And then there's also, if it has, so this article doesn't have the part about, here we go. Here's the one about the phone ringtone. Progressives demand mistrial over Rittenhouse judge's God Bless the USA ringtone, and they're saying that that's literally the MAGA national anthem. Now, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but God Bless the USA, is that not one of those popular songs, patriotic songs around the time of September 11th? Like, wasn't that, I mean, unless there's multiple songs with the same name, which could very well be in country and patriotic music, but like, I'm pretty sure that's the same, that's the same song. Democratic boosters and others called for a mistrial in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse after Judge Bruce Schroeder's cell phone went off mid-hearing playing God Bless the USA. Schroeder's phone went off momentarily in court, and the judge's mic picked up the ringtone. He appeared annoyed and immediately silenced his phone and moved on. But critics say that the ringtone is evidence of bias because former President Donald Trump would also play the same song at his campaign rallies. And so, according to one person, Brian Behar, whoever he is, claimed the patriotic song as the MAGA national anthem. Apparently, the judge in the Rittenhouse case has Lee Greenwood as his ringtone. That's literally the MAGA national anthem. Can we just jump ahead to the appeal? The television writer, I guess. And lots of people jumped on this, and now it's all over Twitter that the judge is a racist because of that tissue box I pointed out to you earlier, and because of this ringtone. And now they're saying that the whole thing needs to be a mistrial, and they need to get a new judge because he is too biased and clearly favoring Kyle, when really there were even some things that he should not have allowed that hurt Kyle. I mean, he's definitely not acting like Kyle's BFF, but yeah, okay, so Michael 9865 says that song was actually popular during Desert Storm. So there we go. It has nothing to do with Trump except that Trump happened to use it. And it was probably a dude's ringtone long before Trump came on the scene. He probably enjoyed the song long before Trump came on the scene. Cowboy Roy Rogers says that he's an excellent judge, sticking to the Constitution, no BS allowed. From what I've seen, I agree. Definitely doing better than a lot of the other cases that we've heard about in recent years. So progressive commentator Lindy Lee claimed that Schroeder's ringtone is Trump's theme song and accused the judge of performing for the Fox News lemmings. She said it was Trump's theme song, which played every time he was on stage. I kid you not. And here's just, bunches of tweets, and even Pete Souza, the former chief official White House photographer for Obama, retweeted a video of the phone going off and saying that there needs to be a new judge and there needs to be a mistrial because of the judge's alleged racism. We have also CBS News made a post declaring Kyle Rittenhouse a murderer before the trial is even done. They had a tweet. CBS News deleted a November 11th tweet declaring Kyle Rittenhouse a murderer, even though Rittenhouse's trial is ongoing. The verdict on his actions has not been reached. So here is the original tweet, and someone screenshotted it and reposted it. CBS Mornings says Kyle Rittenhouse testified in his murder trial yesterday, breaking down in tears as he told the jury he murdered 2 men at a Black Lives Matter protest last year in self-defense. And it got 19,000, well, this is this guy's tweet, but doesn't say how long it was up before it was deleted, but the tweet was posted by CBS, later deleted, but folks had screenshotted it, and it is still going around. So there's all kinds of crazy things that are going around in this trial. So, like I said, I did not get to any of the information from today, but I don't know. People are going back and forth. Some people say that it was a good day because one of the charges was thrown out, essentially, and other folks are saying that it was a really bad day because of, well, the defense dropping the ball, basically. People are saying enter Sandman's legal team. Yeah, there's been some speculation that if he were to win, or at least for it to end in a mistrial, that he could potentially sue Joe Biden or other people for defamation for calling him a white supremacist. When Joe Biden was on the campaign trail, he actually put out a video calling Kyle a white supremacist. So that certainly did not help with this narrative at all. It's just a hot mess. Gito says, I bet it's up on the Wayback Machine. It might be. It might be. That one's kind of funky sometimes, because sometimes you'll get something on it and it's in a totally different language, but it might be someone might have an archive link of it somewhere, but either way, we have a screenshot at the very least. So we'll see. We'll see if it we'll see what the jury does, I guess. Mr. E says, isn't it impossible to murder someone in self-defense? Yeah, technically, legally speaking, but, you know, journalists gonna journalism, I guess. So I wanted to, that took up way more time than I expected, but I suppose I should have seen that coming, because there's just so much to take in. We're on, I think, what, day 10 of the trial, and originally I don't even think it was supposed to go on that long, because one of the things that I saw when everything was wrapping up one of the days was the prosecution, when they were saying like, oh, well, you know, we want to introduce these other charges now. They were like asking for extra time and to go into overtime. And yeah, the judge granted them like an extra 2.5 hours on each side. Brett is asking, is there a link or a website where you found that breaking news? I don't know which news you were talking about as far as breaking. I use Feedly. It's a headline aggregator where you go in and you just add. I have all of the major news outlets on there. ABC, NBC, CBS, but then I also have I have Daily Wire, I have Daily Mail, New York Post. I just add all of those and I scroll through them every single day. Also on Twitter, I'll go and I'll search specific terms to see what comes up, what people are saying. So like all over the place, really. Oh, Rose Blight just sent in a super chat. Says Guns and Gadgets appeals court rules on Biden's shot mandate official stay on OSHA. Well, that's good to know. I know that there was, well, I mean, I did the video on the OSHA mandate where the courts said basically they put a stay and they said, well, you know, the White House needs to follow through with this, and then the White House said go full steam ahead. So it's good that they're doing the stay now. People are saying that Guns and Gadgets has some info. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that before I came on. But all right, so really quickly, because this was something that was brought up last week, and I had no idea what people were talking about when they were referencing Ashley's diary, and now I know, and it involves James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, and the FBI basically raided him, claiming that he has Ashley Biden's diary. I don't know. This one we're going to be learning about together, because I spent so much time getting the Kyle information that I did not get to this, but this was sent to me, well, actually, an article about the leak to the New York Times was sent to me before I came on, and then I got the original New York Times article. So we'll just go through this really quickly because I put in the description that I was going to talk about this today. So we'll make sure that we do that. So, this is from the New York Times. FBI searches James O'Keefe's home in Ashley Biden diary theft inquiry. Authorities carried out a court-ordered search at the New York apartment of the Project Veritas founder 2 days after searching the homes of his associates. Federal authorities on Saturday searched the home of James O'Keefe, the founder of the conservative group. You can't really call them conservative. Group Project Veritas, according to witnesses and people briefed on the matter. A day after Mr. O'Keefe acknowledged that the group was under investigation by the DOJ in connection with a diary reported to have been stolen from Ashley Biden, President Biden's daughter. The FBI carried out a court-ordered search of the apartment in New York on Saturday morning after already searching a couple other people that associate with O'Keefe. An FBI spokesman on Saturday said that the agents had performed law enforcement activity at the building but would not discuss the investigation. Mr. O'Keefe did not immediately respond to requests for comments, but in a video statement on Friday, he said that his group had recently received a grand jury subpoena and acknowledged that Project Veritas had been involved in discussions with sources last year about the diary. So they'll go after this, but they ignore so many other things. That tells you something. There must be something really juicy in that diary. So Jimmy Maines, who lives next door to O'Keefe, said a handful of FBI agents arrived early Saturday morning asking for him. They told me to close the door, and he did, and he said that it was still dark. So it was around 6 a.m. when agents arrived, and the agent said something along the lines of FBI warrant, open up. This is someone who lived across the hall from Mr. O'Keefe. Says I ran to the door and looked out the peephole and clearly saw an FBI raid. They had the jackets and everything, just like a movie, and that they were in the apartment for several hours. In the video statement on Friday, O'Keefe also offered a lengthy defense of his group's handling of the diary, saying that he and his colleagues had been operating as ethical journalists, had turned the diary over to law enforcement authorities last year, and had sought to return it to a lawyer for Ms. Biden. So, yet the FBI is raiding his home for it now, which is funny because this is really similar to the Hunter Biden laptop scenario, right? And now we have a Miss Biden diary. And again, it's, oh, I have this thing. I'm going to try to give it over to police. And then they come search me after the fact. Okay. It appears that the Southern District of New York now has journalists in their sights for the supposed crime of doing their jobs lawfully and honestly, he said in his statements. Our efforts were the stuff of responsible ethical journalism, and we are in no doubt that Project Veritas acted properly on each and every step. They did not publish the diary, but dozens of handwritten pages from it were posted on a right-wing website last year, a week and a half before Election Day. I don't even remember this. I don't think I've never heard of this until now. I'm pretty sure. Esteban Laura says that Biden's daughter works for Bloomberg now. Well, that's good to know. I had no idea. Yeah, I have never heard of this before. Okay. The website said it obtained the diary from a whistleblower who worked for a media organization that refused to publish a story about it before the election. It claimed to know where the actual diary was located and that the whistleblower had an audio recording of Ms. Biden admitting that it was hers. So it doesn't really say what was in it. But just again, that he gave the diary back to law enforcement and attempted to return it to a lawyer representing Miss Biden, who he said refused to authenticate it. So it is very much like this Hunter Biden thing where this guy got this laptop, he tried to return it, the law enforcement and officials involved basically ignored it, and then he was like, okay, cool, well, I guess I just have this thing now, and then later on they're like, you committed a crime by having this thing. It sounds like the exact same thing. Am I wrong? Am I misinterpreting the facts here? Really ridiculous. And so now the FBI is just getting into it now. Now, of course, it's convenient that they're just going after this now. A year later, over a year later, now that suddenly Project Veritas is dropping all of these videos about these sketchy things happening at J&J and at Pfizer and at these federal hospitals. I mean, the timing is pretty uncanny, isn't it? Q says, you violated the law. And Third World Assassin, thank you very much for the donation. Angst Vexed says that the diary alleged inappropriate showers with someone in charge at the moment. Ah, okay. Oh, really? Like, is that a joke? Or, like, is that for real? Oh, gross. Okay. Ew. Oh, man. There's all kinds of things that we're not supposed to say on YouTube that's coming out tonight. Thank you for wording that as best as you could. Says that Project Veritas just targets Democratic congressional campaigns, blah blah blah, relied on a British spy, etc., etc., etc. So that's the New York Times article, but according to the Daily Mail here, the FBI is tipping off the New York Times about its raids. Lawyer for Project Veritas boss James O'Keefe suggests that feds are breaking the law by handing privileged legal communications to the Times journalists for a hit piece. So basically they're saying that the FBI shouldn't be talking to the Times, and the Times shouldn't be publishing this information. So Eve Dale says that it's been confirmed by the New York Post. Really? Oh, and it's no wow. How did I miss this last year, you guys? This is a big effing deal. How did I miss? I am in shock that this is the first time that I've heard about this whole thing, and that's what was in the diary? Damn, well, I mean, I guess the media did a really good job of keeping that one under wraps. That is... Wow. That is completely news to me. Okay. Well, thanks for that information, guys. And other scandals. Oh, wow. Okay. Jeez. Squid Monkey says, why is it that the Biden kids lose things that could be grounds for impeachment or just prison for all involved, but it can't be figured out? That is also an excellent question. Crack is a hell of a drug. Erica D'Amico, thank you for the super chat donation. Wow, I am like, really? I need to look this up right now because So, Ashley Biden diary, because how did I miss this last year, you guys? How on earth did I miss this? I can't believe that oh, wow. Okay, that article, that headline, I cannot show on screen. Wow. Okay, I will get in trouble if I show that. Let's see. This, I mean, how reliable is heavy.com? Probably not very reliable. Does it say what was in it? You know what? I'm gonna search this with New York Post specifically. So James Parton, Feds raid. You know what? Let's pull up this link here because they might have a link to the original report. I'll pull this up so that you guys can see what it is that I'm looking at with me here. So this is the New York Post's recent article, Project Veritas founder's apartment raided as part of probe into Ashley Biden's stolen diary. They raided the apartment, and it was reported first by the New York Times, and it came 2 days after the feds raided 2 other New York addresses. Do they have the... Okay, Project Veritas did not publish passages from the 40-year-old's diary, but the National File blog published handwritten pages. Oh, and it links to them. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So it was confirmed November 5th as her diary. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, okay. I'm gonna have to read this off air because that'll get me in trouble if I look at that and show that on screen. All right. Wow. Well, thank you guys for that information. I clearly slipped up by not knowing about that. I am really in shock. That is some pretty intense stuff. Wow. Wow. Okay. But yeah, the bottom line is that the New York Times was tipped off by the FBI and released information that they really shouldn't have been releasing about the raids. And I mean, I will say that, wow, there's even like a published search. Wow, the warrant has been published. Like, this is pretty intense. That's really intense. I learned something new today. But I mean, Project Veritas has actually been pretty successful at suing people and winning for various things. So, I mean, they might be able to make a case here and win, but that is just, I mean, bottom line, it's pretty scary for journalists and press freedom, like actual journalists, because I mean, we can't really call the folks over at like NBC, ABC, whatever, journalists at this point. And Eve Dale says, and mainstream media, not a whisper. Leftist coincidence? I think not. Wow. Timmy says, I hope this gets huge everywhere because of the FBI raid. Would be sweet karma. And you know, it's funny because this is also following a similar pattern to the Hunter Biden story too, in that it happened. Social media repressed it. I'm guessing social media repressed this because, I mean, you just saw my like, what? Are you joking reaction here? And then no one touched it for a year, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, it was suppressed. Like, oh, the laptop was legit. And by that point, no one cares anymore, so they're feeling free to report on it, and now that it's not going to have any impact on an election or anything, like now, and the same thing. Now that like no one cares, we'll say, now they're going to talk about it and do this raid and get it in the media. Talisman says that non-MSM approved journalists are in danger. Yeah. Robert Graham says the communists have infiltrated every level of government. Yeah. Captain Max says, good thing we're not taking shots per wow. Well, I mean, maybe you are. I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what you're doing over there. Warren Harrison says, Fifth Circuit stay on Beau Biden mandate only applicable to those states in the Fifth Circuit. Oh, okay, but it's a step. All right, so the Fifth Circuit is what? Fifth Circuit, which states are those? Like, Fifth Circuit states are Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. Okay. Oh, that's it. Oh, it's only the 3 states. Well, I mean, good for them. Good for them. So, but really, so it's only a stay for those 3 states. That's interesting. That's interesting. So now these 3 states don't need to abide by it, but Biden is still telling the rest of the government full steam ahead. Man, I swear every week there are things that are going on that makes it look like we're going to get closer and closer to secession at some point. It really does. I mean, everything is fracturing. Even, I don't know if you've seen, you guys, recently a map of all of these states that are now distancing themselves from the National School Board or have left the National School Board completely. South Carolina is one of them. And it's like, you know, there's a couple Midwestern states, but then it's like the whole South from like Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, across to like Texas. And I mean, there are so many things that we're seeing. Like, those chunk of states are just like, nah, bro. For so many different things. Like the mask mandates, this OSHA thing. There was actually just a piece of legislation introduced here in South Carolina for vaccination freedom, where you wouldn't be able to discriminate against vaccine status. Employees would not be allowed to force or employers would not be allowed to force employees to disclose vaccine status. You can't require experimental vaccines in K through 12 schools, all of these things, and it was introduced with 43 state legislators already signed on. And, Florida's doing similar things, and, like, Texas is saying, well, we're not going to stand for it. Oh man, and Abbott is like going after the schools in Texas right now and some of the things that they're doing in the schools. So we are definitely seeing a breakdown by state lines for sure. Space Peanut says that it might be time to move back to Waco. Getting cold up here anyways. Squid Monkey says, piece of advice, don't mess with Texas. Andrew Kang says it's the Matrix gone mad. Yeah, well, I mean, and especially with that weird, like, Facebook thing where they're gonna call it the metaverse now or something. Oh, man. So, it's just about 9 o'clock, and we spent an hour and a half on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and I feel like we still really only scratched the surface, but, I mean, it's hard to break down 9 or 10 days of a trial into even an hour and a half. Even like the recaps that they do on Rakita Law, and I really suggest, actually, I'll find you guys a link for them really quick, because I've been watching them in my free time, and I'm glad that people have posted them on social media, because it's some really good stuff. Let's see if I can find. Oh, of course, now it's not popping up. Here we go. I will, oops, let me pause that so it doesn't make any noise at you guys. But even their videos that they're doing the live streams, and then they do recaps, and even the recaps are like 3 hours long. I mean, and that just goes to show, we'll go right to the videos page there, because that's easier. That just goes to show how difficult it is to break this down and cover all of the information. P. Taylor is saying that I'm stuck on WoW. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. John Morgan says already subscribed. Yeah, I think that you mentioned them to me as well. Oh, there are some folks saying that they hadn't, in the chat, saying that they hadn't heard about the Ashley Biden story. So I'm glad it wasn't just me. I am really surprised, and I feel like I failed you guys for not knowing about that. But, and John Morgan says, don't know when Nick gets any sleep. Yeah, and it was tough. Like, Wednesday in particular, I had a bunch of meetings and some doctor's appointments, and it was like, okay, like, I have this meeting for an hour, and then I get out of the meeting and I watch an hour of the trial on Rakita, and then I have another meeting for an hour, and then after that, the hour in between, I go and watch Rakita. And I'm really glad that they had all of those, the panel of lawyers there, because I learned a lot, and even they were shocked about the fact that now there's new charges, new lesser charges being added. So I don't know how common of a thing that is. From their reactions, it doesn't sound like it's really all that common, but maybe it is. But yeah, we shall see. I really think that as the information with Kyle stands now, and all of the photographs and the video evidence and all of that, I don't see how the jury can come back with a guilty verdict, at least as far as any sort of intentional homicide or anything. I really don't see how they can come with a guilty verdict unless it is done out of fear and societal pressure. I unfortunately could totally see that happening. But then, I mean, we look back at the Derek Chauvin case. I don't know, man. I don't know what we're gonna see, and I think that it would be a serious miscarriage of justice if this kid goes to jail, because you know what? I think that if I can't speak for you guys, but I would imagine, knowing some of you folks the way that I do, and the fact that you watch this channel and all of that, I would imagine that if any of us were put in a similar situation where we were being charged, chased down by people threatening to kill us, and we were being attacked, we probably would have done the same thing. And I don't think I could have been as good of a shot as he did and been as, calm, cool, and collected in the moment as he was to only dispatch, we'll call it, against the direct threats against him. I mean, he did better than even cops do in that situation. I mean, the kid's a damn Boy Scout, lifeguard, medic training, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, the people are saying that, yeah, the prosecution is grasping at straws. I almost wonder from their behavior if they're even trying at this point to get a mistrial because they think that they can't win. And so they're purposely mucking things up to try to get a mistrial so they can be like, oh, well, we tried. But I don't know. I'm going to continue to follow it. My bad says he's guilty of misdemeanor gun possession. Okay, right. But that charge was dropped according to Pete Taylor. So we'll see. James P. says if he's put in prison, that will be the final straw that proves there is zero justice left in this country and only mob rule exists. It will certainly set a really bad and detrimental precedence in terms of self-defense. So, right. So it is 9 p.m. Oh, we got one more tip came in from Q. Says the mic has been creeping down lower and lower the entire show. Oh my goodness, you're right. It has. Oh, that's funny. Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty jerry-rigged right now because I have to have it plugged in to charge because, like I said, it was dead before I came on, and I have it taped and set all weird to try to keep the charging cord off the camera, so that's funny. But all right, guys, so we're gonna wrap it there. I think I did pretty good for 4 hours of sleep. I don't know about you guys, but I think we did pretty good tonight. Pretty sure I didn't miss anyone in the super chats. If I did, it was not on purpose, and I apologize. But I think I got them all. Oh, that's right. Jack Pittenger said baby bump. All right, we're gonna do the baby bump. I should show you guys, it's not like a before and after, but week 34 to week 35, I didn't realize it until I took my picture last week, because I take the weekly pictures, and I said, holy shit. She has dropped a little bit more since then, so things are escalating for sure. Let's try to get it. Oh, it's getting harder to stand up. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. It looks a little smaller with the dark shirt, but, yeah, baby bump. I have to wait always for it to show up on the stream to like make sure I'm actually on camera. Yeah, baby bump. 36 weeks tomorrow. So we're getting close, which is a little terrifying to know that anytime within the next 4 to 6 weeks, I will have a tiny human that is 100% dependent on me for the rest of my life. Well, 100% dependent on me for a couple years, and then like 90% dependent for the rest of their life. Ooh, it's a little scary, but I've read a lot of books. So, well, we're gonna get through it. And yes, it is a big baby bump. That is for sure. Maybe I keep meaning to do an official announcement on the channel, and it keeps not happening. I'm gonna try to just do a quick one this week because there are still some people that I mention it in passing on a video or something, or like a Instagram or Twitter, and they're like, "Well, I didn't know." So I'm gonna try to make an official announcement, and I'll put in there the like before and after of like that 6 days before she dropped and after she dropped, because I didn't realize what people were taking and talking about until I saw those pictures side by side, and I said, "Oh my god." A Cyclone Steve says, "Have it on live stream." I'm not having the baby on live stream. First of all, it's in a special birthing wing that unfortunately is in the hospital, and they only allow a support person, like, you know, husband and a doula if you have one, and that's it. And number two, my goal is to do it completely natural and unmedicated. So I'm gonna need to be in the zone, and during transition might be telling people that I want to die. I don't know. We're gonna see. I've never been through labor. I don't know what it's gonna be like, but my goal is to do it completely natural and unmedicated. So I know there's probably a lot of people that don't want to see that. Larry Hutton says, "Have mercy and decency." And yes, Gardner says someday she'll be able to take you to dinner, and thank you. All right, folks. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and everyone that stayed as long as they did. I think at one point we had 600 people too while we were talking about Kyle, which is pretty sweet. We'll see if YouTube allows the stream to stay up. They gave me a copyright thing for the last one because apparently that guy, the trucker that won in New Jersey, apparently some song in his campaign ad was copyrighted, and I had to fight that this week. So we'll see what happens with this. Hopefully YouTube allows it to stay up. Hopefully I don't get any kind of flag or anything like that. If I do, it should be automatically uploaded to BitChute by tomorrow. So, I mean, it'll still exist in the ether somewhere. And thanks for everyone for tuning in, staying as long as you did. Thank you everyone for the super chats and the tips tonight. Tonight especially, through this very trying topic, we'll call it. Thanks for the likes. Thank you to all of the mods in the house. And all of the new channel members as well. There was a couple that came in, which is super cool. Thanks to all the folks that help on Patreon and Subscribestar. All of that fun stuff. And I will have a video, at least one video for you guys this weekend. I recorded it already. And that's when I learned that my mic died and I had no sound. So I have to redo it, but it'll be short and not sweet, but it'll be short. So that'll be up probably tomorrow, Sunday latest. We'll have a couple other things coming out, and we're gonna keep going as long as baby will let me keep going. And that is the plan. So everyone, if you haven't eaten yet, enjoy your dinner. I'm about to go enjoy mine. And thanks everyone for tuning into the chat, helping out the channel, doing the like button, all of that fun stuff. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I will see you on the next one. And Rose, thank you, just became a member. So the Discord link, if you go to the community tab, the newest Discord link should be there. For new members, if you join the Discord and your screen name on Discord is different from your YouTube name, send me a DM on Discord or comment on that community post, something like that, so I can make sure that you are getting the right tiers in the Discord. It's a pretty active place, I think. I'm in there pretty much every day, and most other people are too. Alright, guys, have a good rest of your night, and I will catch you on the next one. Cue the cool stream ending screen.